In December of 2005, I lost someone very precious to me. But now that I look back on that one day, 11 years ago, perhaps our fates had been sealed from the very start. Back when I was still a part of the Tojo clan's Dojima family, there were only 3 people in the world I would call my family. One was my best friend from the orphanage where we grew up, Akira Nishikiyama. Another was the man who took me in and raised me like his own son, Shintaro Kazuma. And the last was the childhood friend I'd always loved, Yumi Sawamura. After having lost my parents at a young age, those 3 were the closest thing to a family I ever had. Until... One day, right before my eyes, was the lifeless body of the Dojima family patriarch. He had tried to force himself on Yumi, and paid the price with his life.
Oi, しっかりしろ。錦、Yumiを連れて逃げろ。
でも、お前は。
行け、錦。Yumiを頼む。行け！
I couldn't bear to lose either of them. So I did what I had to do.
食事、始め!
I got 10 years. While I did my time, I got word of my expulsion, and I found out that Yumi had disappeared. I was branded for patricide. When the Tojo clan cut me off, I felt like a kite without a string. Even so, there was someone on the outside who still remembered me.
Oyasa.
The man I considered my father. When I made parole, I set out to find him, to reunite with him, and to learn about everything that happened during the 10 years I spent in prison. I finally returned to Kamurocho. A lot had changed about the city.
直系組長の皆さんがいるこの場で3代目に伺います。東都銀行の貸金庫にあった組の金100億盗まれたってのは本当ですか？
My former friend had become an entirely different man. And every thug in town was on the trail of the missing 10 billion yen. A war of succession took root in the Tojo clan. And I found myself caught up right in the middle of it. I placed my trust in Kazuma-san and went looking for Yumi. Somehow she was connected to everything. But I didn't find her. I found a little girl all alone. Her name was Haruka. At the time, she was only 9 years old. Yet this brave little girl had come to the city all by herself, determined to find her mother. We'd met by pure chance, but as it just so happened, there was one thing we had in common.
お前、どうするんだこれから？
私にはお母さんとユミお姉ちゃんだけだから。
ユミ？
The This girl, in search of her mother, knew Yumi, who I sought out. Rather than coincidence, perhaps it was fate that brought Haruka and I together in our search. However,
わしらが追っとんのはそこのお嬢さんですわ。
before we realized what was happening, the clans started chasing after Haruka, believing she was the key to the 10 billion yen. Every day saw a new threat. I followed Yumi and the 10 billion's trail while protecting Haruka the best I could. Along the way, in all the chaos, I ended up crossing paths with a police detective. Makoto Date, formerly a Division 1 cop. He had interrogated me after I took the fall for my brother, and his life fell to pieces afterward. To put his career back on track, he asked me to cooperate with his investigation.
桐生、俺は今三代目の世良の殺しを追ってる。手風。
A former Yakuza partnered with a cop on the same case. It made for an odd sight, to say the least. But as time passed, we grew closer and became fast friends. But then,
桐生一馬、誘拐の現行犯として逮捕する。
Sudo, the chief of Division 1, closed in on us.
伊達さん、
ああ、遅くなって悪かったな。
あんたこんなことしたら。
逃げるぞ、桐生。
And although Date-san belonged to the police force, he ultimately chose Haruka and me over his own career. The closer we got to the truth, the more people stood in our way, hindering our investigation. A direct Tojo clan patriarch after the 10 billion, Futoshi Shimano.
やっと会えたな、桐生。
As well as the man who was acting captain of the Shimano family, Goro Majima.
よう、桐生ちゃん、探したで。
Every fight against these hardened Yakuza veterans was even more fierce than the last. Even Sohei Dojima's widow, Yayoi, confronted me over the loss of her husband after his murder. And
堂島をやったのはお前なのかい？
the words she spoke to me that day weighed heavy on my heart. But through it all, some were steadfast in their support. Kazuki, the owner of Stardust, the host club. Yuya, a host who works there. Terada from the Omi Alliance. The people Kazuma-san led me to gave me the courage to press on. But there was one man in particular who would end up bringing Haruka and me closer to the truth.
桐生一馬、出所早々派手にやってるみてえだな。
They called him the Florist of Sai. A legendary information dealer who worked in Kamurocho's underground.
出るぞ桐生。セレナの映像だ。
His intelligence revealed that there was a mastermind controlling everything from the shadows.
花屋によるとこいつは政府の地下組織のものじゃないかってことでな。その線で調べてたら出てきたんだ。内閣府の地下組織 MIA ってのがな。
The Tojo clan's missing 10 billion turned out to be the work of a single politician. His name was Kyohei Jingu. He had embezzled the missing 10 billion yen through the Tojo clan's reserves. And he would go on to use it as a source of income for years on end. To prevent Kyohei Jingu from gaining too much influence in the Tojo clan, the 10 billion yen was stolen yet again. And the people behind it?
カズマ、金を盗んだのは弓と
俺と世良なんだ。
We had finally uncovered the truth behind the money. However,
はるか、おやっさん。
Kazuma-san risked his own life to protect Haruka from Shimano. As he lay dying, he revealed the final piece of the puzzle.
許してくれ、カズマ。お前の親殺したのは俺なんだ。
いいんだ。いいんだ、おやっさん。俺にとっちゃ、おやっさんが本当の親父でした。
He confessed his long-held secret regarding my past, and then took his last breath. After finally learning the truth, Haruka and I picked up the money's trail and made our way out to the Millennium Tower. There, we found Yumi waiting for us. It turned out, the mother Haruka had been searching for was Yumi all along. Though it was a joyful reunion, the happiness only lasted a moment before it all fell apart.
なんだ。
Kyohei Jingu had returned, determined to take back his 10 billion yen. He planned to cut ties with the Tojo clan, join hands with the Omi alliance from Kansai, and ultimately unite Japan's political and criminal worlds under his control. He sprung a trap on one of Kazuma-san's allies, Terada, the Omi chief of HQ, then bared his fangs at us. However,
何？ユミ。
もうこれであなたは私を撃てない。これが爆発すれば店の中にある100億も一緒に消えてなくなる。
Because of Yumi's courage risking her own life, and the ideals Kazuma-san passed down to me,
俺は東上界4代目桐生一馬だ。
we were able to take down Jingu once and for all. But right when we thought everything was finally over, who should walk in but him?
終わったか。これでようやく落ち着けるな。
錦。
Over the course of a decade, the two of us had both changed. Fighting was the only answer we had left. So, we fought. In the end, I watched my best friend give up his own life to save me and Haruka. Kazuma-san, Yumi, and Nishikiyama. I'd lost my entire family, as well as my hope for the future.
ふざけるな。お前の戦いはまだ終わってねえはずだ。かけがえのねえものを守り続けろ。逃げるんじゃねえ。
The only way I managed to escape that despair was thanks to Date-san and Haruka. As for the succession of the Tojo clan, I entrusted it to Terada to uphold Kazuma-san's ideals and said farewell to the Tojo clan. With my past behind me, I started a new life with Haruka.